The room froze because my nephew didn't know any better. He stood there with a chip in his hand, eyes big at the TV, and said it like kids do, loud and true. Aunt Rachel slept at Tyler's. The field on the screen went quiet in my head, the announcer's voice turned to static, and all the warmth we'd stacked in our Phoenix living room slipped like sweat down a glass. I laughed first. It came out wrong and thin. What? He shrugged the way 8-year-olds shrug. Mom said, he added, as if a source made it official. He crunched his chip. The game roared back to life at the same time the house went silent. Rachel's smile held on a second too long and then broke. She put her beard down like it was heavy. My mom turned herself into a statue with a napkin in her lap. My brother stared at his kid like he'd seen a ghost. The dog gave a soft bark, confused by the tide that just went out. Tyler wasn't there yet. He was supposed to bring the second half wings and his ridiculous lucky jersey. I looked at the front door like I could hold it closed with my eyes. "Hey, bud," Rachel said, forcing light into her voice. "What a weird thing to say." He looked at her and then at me, trying to measure the grown-up weather. My brother cleared his throat. He misheard something, he said, an apology dressed like a sentence. "Totally," Rachel said, too fast. I stood there with a guacamole spoon in my hand and thought about how words hang in rooms like smoke. I thought about Tyler's extra key to our garage hung on a hook under the fuse box because I trusted him with my tools, my ladder, my space. I thought about the time he crashed on our couch after a late Suns game because he'd had too many. I thought about how trust looks a lot like convenience if you squint. Tyler texted. 10 minutes out, the 3 dots on my phone looked like a drum roll for a trick I didn't want to see. When he walked in, the room did that fake casual thing. "Hey," he said to everyone and to no one, juggling a paper bag that's stained at the bottom with hot orange grease. He has the kind of smile that got him out of dorm fines and into parties he wasn't invited to in college. He wore the jersey, he wore the same smell he's always worn, cedar and soap and desert night. He looked at me and then at Rachel, and there was a flicker, the kind people miss when they want to believe they didn't see it. "Wings," he said, and lifted the bag like evidence. "Extra late night, per tradition?" "Whose tradition?" I asked, quiet. He looked confused, then careful. "Game day tradition, man." I took the bag and set it too gently on the counter. The TV spun a replay. The house pretended to breathe again. Kids ran back to their forts of pillows. My mom folded her napkin smaller. Rachel busied herself at the fridge, grabbing celery sticks no one wanted, avoiding my eyes like they were the sun. We watched the game, or we let the game watch us. Tyler yelled at the wrong calls and Rachel laughed at the commercials with just a hair too much volume. During halftime, my brother's wife took the nephew outside to look at the stars, which in Phoenix in February means standing under a big dry sky and telling a kid how to be quiet. I went to the bathroom and closed the door and stared at my face in the mirror. Process engineer faces are supposed to be calm. We solve what's in front of us and don't guess. But the thing about betrayal is it moves you out of the plant and into a field where there are no gauges. I splash water like that could make the room honest. When I came back, Rachel was standing a little too close to the sink, hands wide around a glass. Tyler was at the back sliding door talking to my brother about the glory days, like we hadn't been two broke idiots in a shitty apartment arguing about who forgot to pay the power bill. My nephew ran past me in socks and almost fell, and I caught him on instinct like you catch the plate that slides off the counter when you're not looking. "Uncle Chris," he whispered, seeing the lines on my face now and wanting to fix it the way kids want to fix everything. "I didn't mean," I heard Mom say Aunt Rachel slept on Tyler's couch after dancing night. She said it was nothing. "Thanks for telling me," I said, and it came out softer than I thought I had left. My mom watched me watch the room. Moms know. She patted the cushion next to her. I didn't sit. I stood in my own house and felt like a guest. After the last point, after the cheers that sounded thin, after everyone left with Tupperware and promises to do this again soon, I walked Tyler to the driveway. The desert night had that crisp bite Phoenix saves for February, a clean cold over the day's stored heat. "Good game," he said. "Yeah," I said. He shoved his hands into his jeans like he was a teenager again. "You good?" "My nephew said Rachel slept at your place," I said, "because I don't do the slow dance when the song is a lie." He blinked and then did that actor thing with his face surprised, mild offense, calm. "Kid stuff, man, you know how it is. She crashed on the couch once when she and Rachel's yoga group stayed late at King's. It was late, safer than driving. You were at that work conference in Tucson." "King's closes at midnight," I said. He shrugged. "We went to the patio at my complex. It was nothing." "My garage code," I said, and watched him. "You still got it?" "Of course," he said, like I'd asked him if he still remembered how to make a sandwich. "You told me to keep it, for the compressor, the ladder. Remember the water heater leak?" I remembered everything. That's the curse of men who fix things. We file it all. "Change it," I said. He smiled like I'd made a joke he didn't get. "Okay." He pulled me into one of those back-slapping hugs men used to hide. I didn't lift my arms. He walked to his truck, an old F-150 with the dent he never fixed because personality, and waved like we were fine. I stood in the driveway so long the motion sensor light went off. Inside, Rachel was loading the dishwasher like it insulted her. The kitchen smelled like dry rub and lemons. She didn't look up. "Did you?" I asked. "Did I what?" "Sleep at Tyler's." She closed the dishwasher too hard, on the couch, with 3 other people. Jazz night ran late and I didn't want to Uber. When? A month ago, she said. I told you that night I was exhausted. You said yoga, I said. She shut her eyes like the light hurt. I said we did a late stretch after. I didn't think you needed the minute by minute. My jaw clicked. We're not doing minute by minute, we're doing midnight and morning. She put both hands on the counter like she was bracing for a wave. Don't make a federal case out of a nap. It's the couch, I said, and I heard my voice break because that's what happens when you find a crack in your foundation and stick your finger in to see how deep it goes. Her next sentence came out stiff, like it had rehearsed itself in the shower 100 times. Chris, you're always at work. If I crash on a couch because I'm tired, that's not a crime. I looked at the sink and at the faded ring where a pot sat too long in summer and at the little chip in the counter where I dropped the measuring cup in 2019 and never fixed it because it reminded me of our first Thanksgiving. Funny what you keep. I didn't sleep. The dog didn't either. He patrolled the hallway like he was waiting for a stranger. In the morning, I drove across town to Tyler's place with a drill bit he'd asked to borrow a week before. He wasn't home. The office manager recognized me and buzzed me in like I was furniture. Tyler and I had been in and out of each other's places for years. There's a smell to a friend's apartment that you stop smelling when you think it belongs to you too. His bathroom light burned yellow. On the counter were 2 toothbrushes and a cup. One had a pink handle with a little gold line down the side. The other was the blue one I'd seen him travel with. He'd always been a single brush guy. He'd say that as a point of pride, like proof of efficiency. I stuffed my hands in my pockets because I didn't trust them not to throw something. When I turned, a receipt winked up from the trash like an eye. Late night wings, ordered at 1038 a.m., delivered to an address 4 blocks from our house, his name on the order. The tip generous in the way people tip when it's not their money or they're trying to impress. Monday night, the night I went to bed early because Tuesday was my early call. I took a photo of the receipt. I took a breath that tasted like lemon cleaner and guilt. I left the drill bit on his counter like a gift I didn't want to owe him. I drove home on streets that looked newly drawn. I didn't ask Rachel anything that day. I watched her make tea. I watched her stir honey like it mattered. I watched her put on sneakers and say she was going for a walk. The house had a sound to it, a hollow, like someone had moved the couch 2 inches and not put the rug back. My mom called that evening while I was fixing the loose handle on the pantry. You okay? She asked, because mothers don't learn that word from you. Define okay, I said. She sighed. Saw Tyler struck the other night. Saturday? Late. You were working Sunday early, right? My knuckles went cold. How late? After 2, she said. I couldn't sleep. Hot flashes have no respect. I saw the headlights sweep your garage before they clicked off. I almost texted, then thought maybe you needed a friend with a wrench. He has a key, I said. Change it, she said, the sentence hitting my ear like a gavel. That night I watched the Ring app for no reason except to punish myself. A notification from last week at 53 a.m. Ping. Garage entry. The little figure looked like anyone in the black and white grain. He wore a hoodie. He knew where the camera didn't look. I replayed it until the guilt started to feel like a movie I could maybe recast. The next day, I took an early lunch and drove to Tyler's complex again. He was home this time, hair damp from a shower, smile easy and sliding. Hey, he said, stepping aside like he owned hospitality. Back so soon? Forgot to show you a picture, I said, and held up my phone with the photo of the receipt. Late night wings, Monday, to my side of town, on your card. He frowned and then smiled. Dude, it's wings. Do we need to put those under oath? Whose house? I asked. Friends, he said, and tilted his head. Man, you're coming in hot. Whose toothbrush? I asked, and jerked my chin toward the bathroom. He didn't look. He doesn't look at things he doesn't want to exist. Maybe I have gums now, he said, trying a joke that died halfway out. Who slept on your couch? I asked, and the way I stacked the questions felt like work, like building a case, like the plant floor where the only truth is the one that keeps the line moving. He put his hands up like I carried handcuffs. Chris, I love you, man, like a brother. And because I love you, I'm not going to stand here and let you accuse me of something ugly. Your marriage is your marriage. Don't drag me into it. You're already in it, I said, and the calm in my own voice startled me. He stepped closer. Back up, he said. You don't get to bring your insecurity to my door. Insecurity, I repeated, and the word tasted like a dare. He exhaled, slow and dramatic. Look, Rachel and I have been friends forever. We're comfortable. She needed a couch. That's the end of the story. There are 2 toothbrushes, I said. Mine and Rachel's at home. Yours and someone's here. 4 in the math. He laughed, short and mean. You're counting toothbrushes? Jesus, man. I'm counting what tells the truth when people don't. I put the garage code on the counter like a card. Change your locks too, and lose my code. He looked like he wanted to say something else, a bigger lie or a bigger truth. I couldn't tell. He didn't. He smiled that smile he's built a life on and said, don't do anything stupid, which is what guilty people say when they sense they're not the only ones who can burn a bridge. I drove home with the AC on even though it was cool outside. I wanted the loud white noise. When I pulled into the driveway, Rachel was on the porch step with the dog's head in her lap. She looked up like she'd been practicing an expression in a mirror. We have to talk, I said. She nodded and stood like her legs had been asleep. We went to the back. The little covered space I built with my hands, the one that gets just enough shade in August to make life possible. The desert light moved through the palm fronds like it had somewhere better to be. You and Tyler, I said. Is it just couches and wings and toothbrushes, or are we going to climb out of the shallow end and tell the truth? She swallowed. It was a line that moved, she said, and the sentence landed like a stone in my gut. I didn't mean for it to. We were friends. You were always at work. He was here. It felt easy. Easy, I said, and my hands hurt from not hitting anything. She kept her eyes on the dog. It started with talking, then a hand on a shoulder, then things that happen when people are stupid and tired and don't blow up their lives when they should. So you slept with him, I said, because if a wound is going to be cleaned, you have to touch it. She looked up, eyes wet and brave. Yes. The air made a sound in my ears like a train I wasn't on. My mom's voice from every lesson she'd ever given me about breathing found me anyway. I inhaled, I exhaled. The world stayed. How long? Months, she said, and the honesty in her voice made me want to throw a chair and hug her at the same time. It wasn't every day, it was stupid, it was selfish, it made me feel seen, and then it made me feel dirty, and then it made me feel like I had to choose between lying to you and lying to myself. You chose the one that let you sleep, I said. No, she said, shaking her head hard. I haven't slept in weeks. From the side gate, I saw movement. My mom, because moms can't help it when they hear their child's life creak. She stopped when she saw the angles of our bodies and retreated like a cat. I appreciated the mercy. The porch wood under my feet looked different suddenly, like it belonged to a house I hadn't been living in. I looked at Rachel and at the place we built, and I said the line that felt like it had been waiting in me since my nephew declared the party over. You two, I said, and the words were flat and clear. We'll end this now. With me, it's over. She closed her eyes like someone had poured sunlight on her face. Chris, I'm not the man who begs you to choose me over a man who used my garage key, I said. I'm the man who changes the code and changes the locks and changes his life. I'll leave, she said, quiet. I'll pack a bag. You'll take what's yours, I said. I'll call a lawyer. We'll split what needs splitting. We'll do the boring part like adults. She nodded. What about friends? You mean the one with the truck and two toothbrushes, I said. He was my brother at 20. He's a stranger now, a dangerous one. She cried then. It wasn't theatrical. It was the kind of crying that makes you feel like there are bricks in your chest. I stood and let it happen a foot away because I didn't have enough left to hold anyone up. When it slowed, she wiped her face with her sleeve and looked at the dog like maybe he'd decide for us. I changed the garage code that afternoon and texted it to my mom and my brother and two neighbors and wrote Tyler, "It's changed. Do not come by." He sent a thumbs up like it was a joke. The week became logistics. Phoenix gives you simple skies even when your life is coming apart, which is rude and helpful. I moved into the spare room. Rachel took the master. We divided the kitchen like it was a map after a war. We bought two laundry baskets and wrote our names on them like roommates who hate each other. I hired a lawyer who explained the words I didn't want to learn: petition, decree, community property. He used a calm voice. I needed it. He said words like temporary orders, and I watched my hands make fists and then stop. Tyler tried to text me more than once. You good? And let's talk like men. And one that read, don't ruin 20 years over a mistake. I didn't answer. He called twice. I let it ring. He showed up at my driveway once and I stepped out with my phone recording, and he left before I said a word, which told me he recognized the shape of consequences even if he didn't like it. My brother called the guys we used to play pickup ball with and told them just enough. Two came by Friday with pizza and beer and set the beer on the counter without opening it because they know me. We watched a stupid action movie and laughed two out at nothing, and I felt something in me unclench that had been holding on for months. Real friends don't need codes. They knock. They look you in the eye and let you look away. Mom brought over lasagna and opinions. I always thought he smiled too much, she said of Tyler, and then she hugged me around the middle in a way that made me feel 5 and safe. I told a few people at work. The plant manager, who doesn't say much, put a hand on my shoulder and squeezed once. Change the locks, he said. Change your routine. Don't change who you are. Rachel moved in with her sister for a while. The day she left, she stood in the doorway with a cardboard box and said, I don't know who I am without you. You'll find out, I said. It wasn't cruel. It was the only honest thing I could think to offer. The little community we built reshaped itself. Some people vanished because they were Tyler's draw, not mine. That was a gift hidden in a slap. The guys I hadn't called in a year started sending texts like, ball tonight? Or need a hand with the evap cooler? The neighbor across the street came over with a socket wrench set and we fixed the rattle that had driven me nuts for months. My life got smaller and better. There was more air in it. Tyler moved. Someone said California, someone said his truck got keyed at a bar and he got into a fight with a stranger in a bathroom mirror. I didn't look him up. I didn't check if his new place had a toothbrush holder that could carry 2 lies. My mom saw him at a gas station and said he turned away like a man who runs out of lanes. Phoenix summer came angled hard and early. The heat wrapped everything in a slow towel. I woke up in a bed with space and breathed like breathing was an activity you can be good at again. The first night I slept 8 hours through, I woke up in a panic because peace and panic make the same noise when you're not used to them. I lay there and waited. Nothing bad happened in the dark. It was almost disappointing realizing how much energy I'd been spending racing phantoms. We signed the papers in August in a cool room with bad art. It felt like closing a project you started wrong and had to end early so you could start over with the right specs next time. The judge told us we were adults. The lawyer shook my hand. Rachel looked at me one more time, the way you look at a house you've emptied, and said, I did love you. I know, I said. I meant it. Love and betrayal live on the same street. That's the trick. I joined a trail group and ran before the sun landed on the rock and turned it into a stove. I sweated out old conversations. I learned the names of plants that never ask you to apologize for being prickly. I drove out to South Mountain one evening and sat on a ridge while the city lit up like a map of nerves. I turned my phone off and the silence tasted like clean water. The last thing I did was throw away the old spare key hook in the garage. I kept the ladder, I kept the compressor, I kept the tools that do the job they say they do. I kept the dog who now sleeps by my bed and doesn't patrol as much. I kept me. It sounds simple. It was not. On Sundays, my brother brings my nephew over and we toss a football in the street while the world bakes, and the boy is old enough to know what his words did that day and young enough to forgive himself for being honest. He asked me last week, quiet and serious, are you mad at me? I knelt so we were eye to eye. No, I said, I'm proud of you for telling the truth. Grown-ups forget how to do that sometimes. You reminded us. He smiled like a man unburdened of a small stone he'd been carrying in his pocket for months. He threw a pass that hit me right in the chest. I caught it. I didn't drop anything important that day. Do I still get angry? Yes. In the detergent aisle if I see that brand of toothbrush. In the driveway if a truck with the same shape passes by. Anger shows up like a stray dog now. It hangs out for a minute. I give it water. I tell it to move along. It does. When men talk about betrayal, they make it sound like blood and broken glass. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a half-eaten box of wings and a second toothbrush and a garage code you should have changed sooner. Sometimes it's a kid who says the quiet part out loud and saves your life. Two questions then. If someone you love said the sentence that breaks the game in your living room, would you rush to call it a joke? Or would you listen for the small true voice under the noise? And when the friend you thought would carry you drops you on the porch, how fast would you change your locks and who would you hand the new key to? If this hit home, like, comment, and subscribe. It helps more than you think.